Happiness. I think it's very hard to measure these things, but I think in terms of like numbers, but if we look at the quality of life and people's attitudes, and if people are happy and they're engaged, then we have achieved success.
Well, the new Kuwait 2035, an ambitious project that goes beyond the boundaries of the region, and as long as we have a global audience, also for those who are connected in the live stream from all over the world, I would say let's start from here, Nasser, and then of course, Mohammed, Abdulharam, Ghazi, please.
Kuwait is a progressive country, and throughout the past 70 years, and since the urban development of Kuwait started after the discovery of oil, we have been seeing many changes, not just on a political level, on a social level, economical level, and the progress has been quite prevailing because the city has grown expandedly in the past 70 years, and we continue to look at more expansion that will continue to happen over the coming 10 years or so, where the city has planned very large urban developments throughout the country to cater for the new communities that are required to meet the housing demands and other demands within the city. And the ambition is not only limited to architecture and urban design, but it goes beyond it to human growth, to development, to economical growth, and so on. So that's at least where we are and how we're moving as a country and as a society.
Kuwait had a huge improvements in many ways in infrastructure. Recently, Kuwait has announced the increase of Mina Mubarak, which is the main port of Kuwait, 10 times bigger than what was initially planned for. And also there is the huge other infrastructure projects which are under the way, like the Kuwait main airport terminal 2, which will be finished very soon. And there are also other many projects in the housing sector and the commercial sector, whether public or private. Plus the huge master plans that are undergoing as we speak right now.
I think if I want to add to what my colleagues here, with regard to your question specifically on how the vision of Kuwait would improve the standard, or how the standard of living will be incorporated in the vision of Kuwait, I will take what Engineer Aisha started with happiness. And if I want to qualify and quantify what happiness would be within the vision, in my view, I think it is more about the services associated with the people of Kuwait. Looking at the vision of Kuwait of 2035, there is a lot of initiatives that is coming from the government toward improving the quality of those services, which eventually will create the happiness across the citizens. So in my view, there is a lot talking about the human capital and human initiatives within the vision of Kuwait would eventually create or improve the services around the citizens, which I agree with Engineer Aisha. Spreading happiness across the citizens is what we need.
What my colleagues were stating is very correct, and what we know all here, Kuwait is developing rapidly in all dimensions, and the big challenge for architects is to meet these changes and to have them resolved. This is a very serious issue because the style of living is getting more and more modernized and the inquiries are different. So To implement all these inquiries, this will be a big challenge. We, as a developer, together with architects, we are working on it. Thank you.
I think it's important to look at our history. Kuwait has always been a city on the water, and we've always been an open culture, like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. We're open to ideas. Foreigners came, they lived here, they became Kuwaitis. So I think it's just a shift in mindset that needs to happen.
This is about identity and tradition, challenges that each country has, and it is about, on the one hand, securing the roots, the tradition of a country, on the other hand, being able to broaden the horizon and bring your culture forward internationally. So what about the strategies that you see are at works in Kuwait and in your office?
I think in terms of question, it's quite complex because we all strive to be global, and this is something that we continue to state. But at the same time, we're actually extremely local as individuals, and we want to manage our household, manage our workplace, manage our even relationship with friends and families in a very warm, introverted, closed manner. And that's something that is a human internal conflict that we all have, where we state that we're global, and in reality we're not. We're actually very cozy, very close, and we want to be introverted. And within our practice, we continue actually to confront both. And confronting both is not only a language of architecture, but it's actually a behavior, a human behavior. And how do we respond to a human behavior to ensure that we have the image of globalization, but at the same time actually very localized and very responsive, not just to the climate and the site, but also to a culture and a behavior and a way of living. So this is this challenge that we as a practice continue to try to thrive with, and that behavior doesn't only stop with us, but it's actually a reflection to all our clients, and my colleagues here are clients of the firm that continue to challenge us to try to situate architecture to meet these requirements within their projects.
This issue has two folds. As we said in the beginning, Kuwait is building a new infrastructure that will enable to attract a lot of foreigners inside Kuwait, which I think the government has also catered to that in many different ways. One of the ways that was crucial and the government did is basically opening the market for foreign investors to invest directly without the need of local partners in Kuwait. This was done last year, and it opened up the market for direct investment as it was announced by KADIPA, which is the Kuwait Direct Investment Authority here in Kuwait. This will allow, among the huge infrastructure, which is the port and the airport and many other infrastructures and the new cities that are developed, will allow and will cater to not only Kuwaiti nationals, but it will allow also for internationals and foreigners to be in Kuwait.
In my view, I think we in Kuwait, we are very resilient to our culture. I don't have a doubt. I never have a doubt about, the impact that globalization or foreigners that brings to the country. In fact, I see it the other way around. I think whenever there is anything new development in Kuwait, in fact, we go back to our roots, we go back to our old culture. And examples that we are here, we are in Beit Sadu. I think this is a very traditional place in which represent the deep root of culture in Kuwait. We as a developer, when we had the chance to invest in one of the heritage commercial, I would say, area in Kuwait, which is Mubarakiyah, we haven't thought about a new development in the area itself. In fact, we try to emphasize and put more focus about how traditional was this property, and we maintained the identity of that. And I think that is a reflection of what could attract foreigners, because even when we look at foreigners when they visit Kuwait, I think the most impressed area they impressed with is Mubarakiyah, where it represents the traditional or the history of Kuwait. In my view, we're very resilient when it comes to our tradition, and we have a very deep root culture that can influence, in fact, foreigners when they come to our country.
Yeah, this is a very controversial issue, actually, talking about architecture and culture. Now, I know most of the architects have the tendency to go for something modern and things like this, but here it's not the case. The case is AGi specifically, they are improving some materials, modernizing the terminology, but at the same time, there is the spirit of the culture. You can feel it. You can smell it, actually. Thank you.
I think what will fuel our economic growth is our human capital. I really do believe in our human capital, and I think when given the right opportunities, we rise to the occasion. And I think if some of the laws change, some of the cultural issues that we're facing change, we will be unstoppable.
Well, this question is about attractiveness. I would say economic, social, entrepreneurial attractiveness of Kuwait on an international scale. So what's your vision on that?
From my point of view, there continue to be many factors that attract people economically and attract people from to place more investments. And typically this has to do with safety, it has to do with continuity, it has to do with long-term planning. And I think we've seen various countries throughout the history that they continue to reinvent that and to continue to do that. But we believe within a practice there is an element that we get to forget, which is the family. And creating a family, creating an environment, creating a place or a space that attracts you to live there and continue to want to live there. And we believe within an environment like Kuwait, where this idea of a family is something that is very important, that will not only just attract the locals, but attract internationals to be able to come here, have their kids grow within an environment like Kuwait, be more comfortable, live within a society they will call home. And we are challenged to continue that. And I think this is where we reside even further. So we're not only talking about the economical version, but we're talking about the social version, and that is very relevant for us.
Also, one of the main things that will attract foreigners to live here in Kuwait is basically these mega projects that are being done right now in Kuwait. Kuwait has a unique location. It is on the very end of the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf, and it's on the frontier of many other countries in this region. And that location by itself create an opportunity for Kuwait and for the neighboring countries to have different economical opportunities for all these countries that are laying on that location. And what the new project, whether it's the port or the airport or the railway, post is basically a showcase of that opportunity. And I think if these projects came together and work, it will attract and have huge opportunities for international investors and foreigners to be attracted to Kuwait. And this is what is being done currently by the government.
I would second, this point of view, because I think we don't need to be in competition with the development that is happening in the near countries, and namely, we're talking about Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Emirates, all the countries, or all the GCC countries. I think we stand a unique flavor, and I would call it logistically. I mean, talking about the port, talking about the railway, talking about the airport and the cargo city. Those are mega initiatives that is coming in the from the government. In my view, that would be the flavor of Kuwait, and that would be the attraction point to foreign investors. I believe that those are very important initiatives that will create a different flavor when it comes to the vision of Kuwait and the development of Kuwait in comparison with the rest of the countries around us.
Kuwait vision is a little bit different than others. They are moving slowly but very strongly and in a very clear vision. And they are, let's say, having a lot of promising opportunities in the projects and infrastructure and such things like this.
Kuwait has the opportunity in the coming decades to make a huge change in the way of building and construction materials are being used. We come from a culture that used to have tents and fabrics and small villages, not big cities, and we are driving into big cities and big extension of the city. And now I think we in Kuwait are finding the way to urbanize in a sensitive way and having all the strategies and materials that are right now being used for all the facades, all the isolations, and also the water strategies, that these will make a city more livable. And this added to the cultural way of understanding family and the traditional, how they receive every guest here, it will be amazing to live in this country.
Well, this question is about one of your most important themes that has been seen widely also during the documentary, that is sustainability and the path towards sustainability at a larger holistic approach, which is not only, let's say, energetic, but it's also social, economic, and in some way the role of architecture here is really, really fundamental. So let's hear your vision on this.
Again, as a practice, we continue to thrive to challenge the questions linked to sustainability, because first we have to agree that it's not only linked to energy, and that's something that I think with time people began to clearly define, that sustainability goes beyond the energy consumption. But the social sustainability, the cultural sustainability is actually a driver towards ensuring that we consume less energy, because the definition of what is our needs versus our wants start to define how we begin to live closer, to begin in a more compact environment, begin to share materials, begin to share resources. And as a firm, we're believers that this is the only way to address the crucial elements linked to sustainability is actually addressing that basic question. What is our needs and what are our wants, and how we begin to clearly identify them and thrive to design for them.
I think to your question, there are two levels of sustainability approaches that are necessary in Kuwait. One, which is I think the most important one, is on a city scale, on an urban scale. And this could be achieved in multiple ways. One of them is basically planning for instance, district cooling in cities. This will significantly reduce the power consumption in a city, and rather than doing multiple HVAC systems for each building, having a unitized district cooling that would serve multiple buildings and leading to a reduction of 30 to 40% of the power consumption. And also in the planning itself, the way you stack buildings and the way you make advantage of the topography of a certain land in a way that would allow passive components to thrive in that planning or in that city, and would create certain shades that will eventually lead to a better functionality of the whole city. And on the development of a building itself, there are many components which I'm sure Nasser and AGi team also have practiced in their building, whether in passive components or active components.
I believe sustainability has, it is the most widest, word that I've been hearing in the past month. So in my view, let me simplify sustainability. It is sets of values that need to be incorporated in every process that we need to take, whether it is a development of a house or a development of a city, or even taking into account, the regulatory and the laws and regulations that the government need to take. I could see there is, I would say, a great desire of incorporating sustainability in Kuwait. But the issue is that when we talk about sustainability and we in the private sector, we start to talk about and trying to incorporate the sustainability in our initiatives, I think there is differences in the pace that a private sector / government sector, though the government sector has the desire to incorporate such values within their process, I think they are stuck with old laws and regulations that dictate not only from the government standpoint, but even on the private sector standpoint, some, standards in order for us to really become more economical in our initiatives. So in my view, the desire is there. The intention from the private sector and the government sector is there. We just need to incorporate that in every aspect. I mean, whether it is the laws, the regulations. So there are a lot of regulatory requirements that need changes in order for us to really incorporate sustainability in all our initiatives. And in many cases, I mean, whether it is us or, I mean, other line of businesses, we compete between us as a private sector. And if I incorporate such costly, and let's call the sustainability aspect costly in the short term and maybe more economically in the long term, if I incorporate such initiatives in my strategy, that would throw me sometimes off the competition. So there are many initiatives where we see sustainability requirements is mandatory within the competition that we bid for or we compete at, which we welcome sustainability as an instrumental part of our bid. But I think this needs to be dealt with across the board. So the government need to incorporate all the laws and the regulations of those values within every process that government take. That will take us somewhere really different when it comes to sustainability.
I would talk about sustainability from a smaller scale at the architectural level scale. So when we are talking about sustainability from architectural point of view, there are many items should be considered. They have a direct impact on the vocabulary of architecture, on the way how they are planning their buildings. So this, it's not only the bigger scale, the governmental scale, but it's the responsibility of the architects as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was willing to stress a theme which I think is very peculiar about AGi Architects. And this question is, of course, in particular for Nasser, but I would also like Mohammad, Abdulrahman, and Gadi to comment upon that as they are your clients. You have offices in Kuwait and in Spain, particularly in Madrid. So in some way, your identity is a cultural bridge between two worlds. And I would like to know your point of view on how this has been a challenge or an opportunity in your career, and in some way how it has driven your program and the selection of project and how the office has developed over the years.
There's two ways to answer this question, at least the pragmatic way and the non-pragmatic way. If we're talking the non-pragmatic way, I think the drive is a relationship that Joaquín and I created more than 25 years ago, and that started from a friendship of two students sitting next to each other in the same class, studying architecture many years back. But that's at least the drive behind the office. But I think the pragmatic point of view is actually the rigor that we continue to create. Both Spanish society and the Kuwaiti society are in general quite similar when it comes to backgrounds, to the beliefs linked to family relationship, to social relationship, to the way we address certain elements. So we're not so different from a cultural point of view, although yes, Spain is in Europe and Kuwait is in the Middle East, but in the same time, the values are there, and the same values. The translation of those values, which is the way we work, the way we challenge ourselves, the way we're actually being challenged by our clients and continue to be challenged by our clients, I think that is the inherent element that every person within this office and the team that we have, and some of them are here and the others are in our Madrid office, continue to see that we're driven, we like to challenge ourselves, and we like to critique ourselves. And we are the biggest critics of what we do, because that's the only way to improve. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but I think our clients will be able to answer in a different perspective.
I think the split between Madrid and Kuwait help us as clients to take advantage of both sides, the international level, the international scale, and also the local team who is living in Kuwait and addressing the same issues that we face on a daily basis. So I think this split helped us in many ways to basically have the latest and lessons learned from all over the world, especially Europe, and also local issues that we face and challenges.
I think from my standpoint, I think the two offices between Kuwait and Madrid create diversity. To us as a client, I think creativity is meant to be, created by provoking. Your brain, your boundaries, your limitation. I think the two countries. Create that diversity, which again create more, I would say, provocationally, environment between the Madrid office and I don't know whether the mechanism of AGI the same or not, but I assume if I would be in Nasser place, I would place competition between Kuwait and Spain, that creates and that drives the creativity to the max. I think that two presence from two different countries create depth in creativity and variety.
I would say we are happy to gain Madrid team and to have them understanding the local culture so they can see us from another point of view. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think I would like to have one last round before wrapping up, and that's on the role of architecture and the architects in the larger playground of cities and metropolitan areas, which are strongly transforming over this year everywhere in the world, in Europe, in Asia, in America, in southern part of the world. And I would like to stress your idea on which is the role of architecture in addressing these challenges and how we envision the cities of the future and their identity.
I think if I answer as an architect, probably that's not the right way of answering, because we think we know it all and we know how to resolve all these things. But I will not answer as an architect. I will actually answer from a human that lives in a city or walks in a city or lives in a city. And that the architect, like any other individual, is trained to be an observer, is trained to be critical in terms of understanding the city, understanding the atmosphere, understanding the space that we begin to interact. And our real role as architects is actually to bring people together. The minute you do that, you have to create an environment for people to be able to interact, to live, to enjoy. And when we're talking about people, we're just talking about kids, families, adults, throughout different scales and different relationship. And our role, whatever we practice as architects, is actually to ensure that people are comfortably coming together. And if we do that, I think we will have happier cities, more pleasant cities, and better environments to live in.
I think on a city scale, humanity has been challenged with many things recently. One of them, and of course the major one, was COVID. And it made us look back to our cities and areas and places that we live in different ways. And I think there are lessons to learn from that dreadful event. And these lessons has not yet been transformed in plans or master plans that will address such challenges in the future. Another challenge is basically the technological advancement all over the world, and our way of living, as Nasser said, is completely changed in the last 2 years, driven by technology. Now we have food delivered to our houses in every place in the world, and this by itself has not been addressed in the way that we plan for the cities and how we could accommodate that, and for future also advancement in that area. In the future, who knows, the deliveries could be from helipads on your houses or in your buildings. And we haven't had any thoughts about how we can design for that in the future and to accommodate for that in the future. I think these challenges need to be addressed in new master plans that will be able to address these challenges in the future.
Before I answer, let me put this disclaimer. I'm a civil engineer, so we have an inherited power struggle between us and architects. So, I mean, leave joke aside, I think architects plays a huge role into I would say, the systematic approach of developing cities. Definitely, I think why I say systematic, because the learning around the architects and the architecture as we move on with the development of technology, with the development of cities, with the new requirements, with things like what we discussed earlier, sustainability is I think it's very important. I mean, taking into account those I would say requirements within the development of the city is crucial. That's why I truly believe architecture and architects, they would always be within the learning, I would say, exercise throughout the life, because what was I would say working from architectural point of view, I mean, I would say 3-4 years ago would be obsolete, or would not be working as we move on within the development of the cities. I still see civil engineers should lead, but I mean, eventually things is not going our way.
Yeah, I think the way of living is getting very complex and more and more complex, actually. And everything around us is changing and rapidly changing. So I don't know how this will affect the architecture and the output of the architecture. Frankly, we don't know what will happen. Let us wait and see. Thank you.
Well, these were quite thoughtful consideration, and I think it's good to wrap up our conversation here. I would like to thank, in particular, Nasser and Joaquín. We've been very happy to follow your work and devote this episode of the Architect series to your office, AGi Architects, and thank you also to Mohammad and Abdul Rahman and Ghazi that took part to this panel discussion. Of course, to our audience, both there with you in Kuwait and connected remotely. The Architect series will continue, will keep going in 2025 and 2026. So stay with us and we'll keep you posted. So stay tuned. Thank you very much and good evening.